How many of you are sexually active? How many of you have ever been tested for STDs? How many of you know that when you get tested for STDs, that getting tested for herpes is not typically on the panel? I feel like herpes is one of the STDs that people are most uneducated about, and that many people do not even know that they have the herpes simplex virus, and that there are actually two types of the virus, and it can be spread even if that person is not having an outbreak. I've done a lot of research over STDs over the years, and I'm still learning new facts about the herpes simplex virus. So let's begin with talking about the two different types. The shorthand for herpes simplex virus is HSV, and that's probably how I'm going to say it. There are two kinds of HSV. There's HSV1 and HSV2. They're actually used to be considered the same virus, but the medical field started to see that the HSV1 was showing up in a certain place, and then the HSV2 was showing up in a different place. Not saying that they can't be spread to the same places, but that's where it started. And also they noticed that there was different proteins on the surface of each of those viruses. So let's talk about HSV1 first. That's your cold sores. And cold sores, unfortunately, are herpes. So if you get cold sores, then you have HSV1. And I feel like one of the biggest misconceptions is that people feel that they cannot spread cold sores to other parts of the body. But unfortunately, that's not true. You can spread cold sores to anywhere on the body. You can spread herpes to anywhere on the body. So the misconception that cold sores only happen around your mouth is exactly that, a misconception. You can actually spread cold sores to someone's genitals or to their inner thigh or any place on the body. So your HSV2 is your genital herpes, which just like HSV1, your cold sores, that can be spread anywhere. So if you have genital herpes and you let somebody do oral sex on you, you can actually have your HSV2 be contracted to their mouth. All the virus needs is a cut or an opening, a mucous membrane, or some kind of secretion in the vaginal area for that virus to be spread. So not only is there confusion about the two different types of HSV, but many people have the virus and don't even know. As stated by ProjectAccept.org, 90% of people with HSV have no idea that they have it. This could be because HSV is not part of the standard panel STD testing, and it can also be because a lot of them don't show any symptoms, and if they do, they're so light that they don't even notice them. Many people do not know that when they go in and tell the doctor, I want to be tested for all STDs, that the HSV 1 and 2 are not on that panel. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC does not recommend herpes testing for people without symptoms. They choose to do this because they feel like the people that are tested positive and don't show symptoms, that they're not going to change their lifestyles sexually. They're not going to stop, having sex without condoms and that sort of thing. So they just think that they just shouldn't have to test for it. When you do request an STD panel, you must request to be tested for HSV. And when you do get tested for HSV with no symptoms, it's a blood test. They're going to be testing for the antibodies in your system. 10 to 20% of people that actually have HSV show no symptoms at all, while the other 10 to 20% of people with HSV actually show symptoms. So the other 80% show no symptoms at all. Basically, we call those people carriers. So once again, if you're not showing symptoms of an outbreak, you will not be tested unless you actually ask the doctor to be tested. Blood can be drawn once again to see if you have antibodies for HSV1 or HSV2. Now that we've distinguished that many people have HSV and do not know, let's talk about how the virus spreads when there is no outbreak present. Many people want to believe that the spread of HSV is when there is an actual outbreak. Well, having an actual outbreak is the easiest way to actually spread the virus, because the virus is actually present where the blisters are, which usually pop, and so it's an open wound. HSV goes through these phases where it's dormant, kind of like a volcano, and it'll just sit there and nothing happens. The virus actually lives at the base of the spine. So you'll go through periods, or the person who's infected will go through periods called shedding phases. So think about your dog shedding, or how your hair kind of comes out, or your skin peels. That's exactly what happens when the virus sheds. It just lets off little pieces of itself into the body, which can be secreted through bodily fluids. During this time, typically people show no signs at all. That's why it makes it so easy to spread the virus. It is said, though, that there's only a 10% chance of spreading the virus, but that's still 10% chance. Just let that sink in, that it can still be spread with no symptoms. You can cut down the risk of contracting the virus or spreading the virus by using condoms. Herpes is one of the STDs that people are most uneducated about, because many people have HSV and do not know, and there are actually 2 types of HSV, and it is possible to spread the virus even if you do not have an outbreak. I hope when you leave here today that you embrace what you have learned and even share it with others. Spread the word. Let's try to slow the spread of this virus. Thank you.